us. We hope that you find this day very worthwhile for your time. We're going to go ahead and get kicked off. We've got a few more that have registered that have not showed up. You can tell by the empty chairs, but hopefully they'll come on in throughout the program. I'd like to introduce my boss, the State Director of SBA, Small Business Administration's District Director of the State of Mississippi, Ms. Janita Stewart, and then we'll just move on from the program from there. So thank you for coming today. We appreciate you.
Hey, did you say who you were? Did you say who you were?
No,
who
I
you
didn't.
are?
I'm still asleep this morning.
She's still sleeping. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Everybody's doing good? Yes. You sure? Where did y'all park? Everywhere. Oh, okay. Okay, down the street, okay. Hopefully it won't get towed away or anything like that. You should be fine, you should be fine. So, as Rhonda mentioned, I am Janita Stewart, District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration for Mississippi, and on behalf of Ashley Bell, who serves as the SBA Southeast Regional Administrator in Atlanta, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you here. And really thank you guys for taking out time of your busy schedules to be here today. And we believe that at the end of the day, or at the end of the half a day, that you would believe that your time here was well spent. It's really a pleasure for us to be back here in New Albany. This is, I think, my third trip here. Was up here back in March of last year when we had the privilege of participating with SCORE to open the new chapter here in New Albany. And SCORE is one of our key resource partners. I was back here along with the SBA staff back in May of last year because we were able to celebrate 2017 Small Business Week Awards event. If you all don't know about Small Business Week Awards, we do this every year as an agency. And we try to recognize successful small businesses and entrepreneurs and also champions that help the cause of small businesses. You know, we have Financial Services Champion, of which Vicki Rivers here with Renaissance Community Loan Fund was our recipient of last year. She was up here then. We have other categories, Minority Business Champion, Veterans Services Champion, and so forth and so on. So, you know, just kind of keep those things in mind because you'll be seeing things come out from the SBA with respect to Small Business Week 2019 coming up for next federal fiscal year. So for last fiscal year, we were here celebrating Mary Jennifer Russell. And she is the owner of Sugaree's Bakery. Do you guys know where Sugaree's is? Sugaree's Bakery's just right around the corner down there on, what's the name of the street? Bankhead Street. And so she was a recipient of our Small Business Person of the Year award last year. So we love New Albany. It's a nice little quaint town, so we're glad to be back here today. Just wanted to thank all of our resource partners that are here. You should have your agenda in your seat there, and they're all listed. You'll have an opportunity to hear from them just momentarily. They'll do a 1-minute elevator pitch about, you know, who they are and what they do. And then you can also meet with them one-on-one just a little bit later on in the program. You will be getting more detailed information about the SBA's microloan program. We have 3 microlenders that are approved to do microloans through the SBA's program here in Mississippi. And one of them agreed to participate today, and that's Renaissance Community Loan Fund. And in fact, they are the only home-based microlender for the SBA. So we're just happy that they were able to be here today. So that you'll get more information about the SBA's microloan program just shortly. Have to give a big shout out to the SBA staff. As always, they do a fantastic job of organizing and working with the venue and getting all the information together. So you've just heard from Rhonda Fisher. She serves as our Supervisory Lender Relations Specialist. She is long-term with the SBA, lots of knowledge about our lending programs. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Rhonda Fisher in addition to her team. Rosetta Harris, Lender Relations Specialist, long-term SBA employee with experience in entrepreneurial development and lender relations, as well as Debbie Dean, who's a lender relations specialist, and she has all kinds of experience with respect to the legal side of things in the olden days, right? And Debbie celebrates 42 years of federal government service today, so that's a fantastic milestone. So thank you to the SBA staff. And with the 4 of us up here, that's actually more than half of the district office, believe it or not. You know, we don't have a whole lot of staff, but our responsibility is to cover the state of Mississippi. Just so you'll know, the district office, which is physically in Jackson, we service the upper 70 counties, and we have a branch office in Gulfport, and they're responsible for servicing the southernmost 12 counties in our state. So, wanted to share with you just a little bit about this particular event here today, and others that we've done like it over the course of some of this current federal fiscal year 2018. And this is as a result of a memorandum of understanding that was signed by the SBA Administrator, Linda McMahon, and Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue. And what they did, they came together to sign an MOU to, in part, expand the agency's brands, respective brands, to work together in order to provide information and education to small businesses and entrepreneurs about the programs and services that each agency offers. A lot of this focus is to enhance rural America. And as far as the SBA is concerned, one of the targets is for us to increase lending in those areas by 5% over a 2-year period, starting this fiscal year into the to the fiscal year that's coming up, which is fiscal year 2019, starting October the 1st. So we've done these regular rural outreach events in lots of places throughout Mississippi, including Carthage, and we've been to Laurel. We'll be going to Grenada the end of this month, and then we'll do one other location, which is going to be in Northwest Mississippi at the end of the month too, before the fiscal year ends September 30th. So that's kind of what we've been doing with respect to reaching out to rural America. Just to quickly share with you some statistics. Small business lending from the SBA's lending programs, and our 2 key programs are our 7A Guarantee Loan Program and our 504 Certified Development Loan Program, where we actually work in participation with a host of in and out of state banks and non-bank lending institutions, our certified development companies, in order for us, SBA, to provide small businesses and entrepreneurs the access to capital that you need to start, grow, and expand. And just through August the 31st of this year, the SBA as an agency had approved 59,719 loans, so just under 60,000 loans nationwide to small businesses across America, to the tune of $27.3 billion. So that's a lot of loans to a lot of small businesses across this nation. Now, this does not include our microloan statistics, because there's another pot, sort of separate from that, where microloans are approved for small businesses that need that type of assistance. Now, in Mississippi, so as of last week, what was approved was 339 loans under those 2 main loan programs to small businesses in our state for about $140 million. So, and we still have the rest of this month to go until September 30th, which ends the fiscal year, so we'll see how all that comes out. But the loans that have been approved so far have served to create and retain 3,097 jobs in Mississippi. And interestingly, 243 of those loans, which is a whopping 72%, were made to startup businesses. So startup businesses are getting funding through the SBA's loan programs. And that's been sort of a trend that we've seen over the past probably 5 or 6 years. And we consider startup businesses those businesses that have been in existence for up to 24 months. Now, in addition to that, so far this fiscal year, we've been able to bring on 20 new lending institutions that helped us to be able to make those loans to those entrepreneurs. Now, going into federal fiscal year 2019, October 1st, we'll be working more closely with USDA Rural Development. We do have a representative from USDA Rural Development here, Cliff Russell. He's going to do his 1-minute elevator pitch in a little bit, and you'll be able to meet with him one-on-one as you will with the other organizations later. But in Region 4, we're going to be doing something called Rural Strong. And that's sort of a creation by Ashley Bell, who's our regional administrator out of Atlanta. That's where we're going to work hand in hand with USDA Rural Development. We're going to be targeting certain parts of our states to do even bigger events, and we'll be doing sort of a longer process in terms of providing more information, detailed information about how to be able to qualify for an SBA loan or a loan under the Business and Industry program for USDA Rural Development. So just stay tuned for more information on that particular initiative going ahead in the coming months. So now in the meantime, again, want to thank you guys very much for taking the time to be here. Again, hopefully at the end of these couple of hours, you'll believe that your time will be well spent. And we're going to follow the program as printed on the agenda there. And so next, we will have, what's on the program next? The 1-minute elevator pitch, I believe. We wish you much success with your business venture, whatever they are. And if, just quickly, those small business owners, is everybody here a small business owner or someone who wants to be an owner? If you raise your hand. Okay, some are already in business? Okay, great. So, and ask questions as we go along. Thank you again so much for being here, and have a wonderful day.
And the credit history will tell a story. And hopefully we can see that whatever hiccups or challenges that you had were due to a life event that you've since been able to recover from. And so don't let a credit score or past credit issues deter you from applying for these programs. And at Renaissance, like almost all lenders, we do require that the borrower have some cash, some investment into the business. You know, if it's going to cost you $100,000 to start your business and you want a lender to provide you that whole $100,000 and then you're going to make all these profits and they're all going to come to you, that's just unrealistic. You need to have something invested into it. Now, does it have to be hard cash? Not necessarily. It can be other assets that you own that you might have equity in. And it might even be something that sets us apart and makes us different from the traditional lenders, is that we can accept some collateral that the traditional lenders would say, you know, I know it's got some value, but that's not acceptable collateral for us. So just to give you an example of some of the things, we did a loan recently where we took a pretty aged truck, camper trailer, and boat that were well in excess of 15 years old. Okay, and so the traditional banks, there's no way they would have counted that for any equity, but we did, and we're able to make that deal work. So we think outside of the box. Again, we're mission driven. If it makes sense and we can justify it and we believe in your plan, then we try to figure out a way to make the loan. There are some other incentives in addition to the technical assistance that we provide on an ongoing basis, and one of those is if we are able to approve and fund your loan request under $100,000, then there is an additional conditionally forgivable loan that goes along with that. And that's money that can be used for additional working capital. Working capital is the lifeblood of any business, and most borrowers underestimate the amount of working capital that they need, and most lenders try to get that number down to a much more manageable number. So the result is that many businesses are underfunded for working capital, and so this is our attempt to try to do that. SBA will tell you that they really don't have any grants. Most of us will tell you that grants just don't happen. Certainly USDA have got some grants for municipalities and some certain industries. The government has some for some very specific healthcare related type industries, but as a general rule, grants don't happen. If you're looking for someone to give you a grant to start your business, let me just dispel that rumor right now. You're probably not going to find it, okay? But this is the next best thing. So if we can get you qualified for a smaller loan, then there is a conditionally forgivable loan that goes along with that. So you say, okay, so what are the conditions of forgiveness? The conditions of forgiveness is that you repay the primary loan according to its terms and conditions, and that you don't default on that loan. And once you pay that primary loan off, the forgivable loan is forgiven. There's no payments during the term. It's just additional working capital for you. Right now, that's about 5% of the loan amount. So if we're able to close a $50,000 loan, you're going to get a $2,500 conditionally forgivable loan. Okay? So that's additional working capital. That can be used for marketing expense or whatever need that you might have. Just show this form. You have in your chair our folder, which has our loan intake package and some information about us. And you'll notice that one of the forms is this here. And this is just collects the demographic data of our borrowers. Because remember I told you that we were a designation of Treasury. We have received some federal funds. And because of that, we have to report the impacts of our lending across all of our programs. And so that involves collecting race, sex, national origin, income levels, family levels, that kind of thing. So also in there, and this is just kind of for general information, there's a checklist of the things that you would typically need. Now, these things you would typically need no matter which borrower you go to. And I'm not going to really spend any time at all on this. I just wanted to give you an idea of the kinds of things that you need to have ready when you're ready to apply for a loan. And let me just put in a plug right now for the Small Business Development Centers, for the VBOC centers, and for SCORE. These guys are free, taxpayer-paid resources for you. SCORE or volunteer. The other agencies, they're paid for by our tax dollars. So they're not going to charge you a thing to help you with getting this documentation together. That's what they're paid for. That's what they do. That's their passion. Take advantage of those resources. Y'all, there are folks out there who have businesses of helping you, not really helping you. There are businesses out there that will take your money and write your business plan for you. And I can just tell you, please, don't do that. Don't do that. There's free resources available, and your business plan needs to be your business plan. Because when the ox gets in the ditch, and at some point it will, you've got to know how to get it out. And if somebody wrote your plan for you, you're not going to have a clue as to how to do that. So take advantage of these guys here. We refer clients to them all the time. They know what they're doing. They have the resources, the tools to do it. So please make use of them. Don't get hung up on that checklist. See them, see us. We also help you. This is some of our pre-closing technical assistance. So we'll help explain this. We'll help. We try not to get into the actual assisting with the business plan and the projections because we don't want to recreate the wheel. We don't want to use our resources when there's already free resources very trained in doing that to do. So don't get hung up on that. All right, so this is where I really start having fun and where the feedback has been really good. This is just some tips, pitfalls, things to avoid in writing your business plan. How many of you already have a business in operation? Okay. Fairly new or well-established? Well-established, okay. New, okay. How many of you are just wanting to start your business? You're in the planning phases and getting ready to start. Okay. So hopefully some of these tips will be beneficial for all of you, even hopefully some of those that have been in business for a long time. And you may chime in and give some additional advice too. So on your business plan, for you that are starting up, the business plan, all right, so let's think about this. For the established business, if they come in to us or any other financial institution and they want to borrow money, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, give us your last 3 years' tax returns and let us take a look at it. And we look at what they've done over the last 3 years to see if, are you making enough money to be able to repay our debt? Because what you've done in the past is a pretty good prediction of what the minimum that you can do in the future, hopefully. Now, if you're a startup business, we don't have the benefit of that. You've not really created any revenues yet. So we're looking at your business plan of what you're saying you can do. So you say, all right, I'm going to be able to sell this many widgets or whatever, and this is what my profit's going to be. We're counting on that to generate the revenue to repay our debt. We don't have any track record to base it on, right? So that business plan, those projections have got to be solid, and you've got to be able to defend them and convince us. Basically what we like to say is you need to look at your lender, whether it be us, whether it be the Planning Development District, whether it be Bancorp South, whoever it is, Regions Bank, whoever, they are your first customer. They're the first person that you have to sell, right? Does that make sense? You got to sell us on your idea, sell us on your numbers. So justify and logically explain how you're getting those numbers. So how might one do that? Well, there's a lot of resources you can use, and again, this is some resources that the SBDCs can help you with. But if you are going to be opening a storefront, one of the things that you can look at is the MDOT has statistics and data of how many cars travel up and down wherever you're going to be located. So you find out how many cars travel up and down there a day. And then you say, okay, of those cars, this many % meets my target market. And I think I can get this % of those. Now, if you come in and you say, I think we can reach 75% of the people that are riding up and down the road, we may scratch our head and say, I can't quite get comfortable with that. Now, I'm never going to tell you you can't do that. I'm not going to do that because you might do it. But what I might say is, I can't wrap my head around that. we can't get comfortable with that. So really think about that and really justify it. Spend your time doing that, not only for us, but for you, because you need to have a realistic picture of really how much business are you really going to be able to generate, okay? Census data. So how many people reside or live in some area around wherever you're going to be located? And then what percentage of those people meet your target market? Now let me just throw something in here. A lot of times people say, well, everybody can use my product. Anybody and everybody. And I would just say to you, that might be true, but you need to have a target. Who is the most likely consumer of your product or service? And then target those. Don't just say anybody and everybody, okay? Have a target and then drill down into those numbers and determine how many of that target, of that, whatever that demographic is, meets there, and how many do you think you can reach? Have that in your business plan. Then once you get your numbers, generally, sometimes I get when somebody hasn't visited the Small Business Development Centers, they may come and they say, okay, for the first year I'm going to do this, for the second year I'm going to do that, and then we say, look, we need this broken down by the month. And so that's something that the Small Business Development Center can help you do. But then when you get that, then I say, in your mind, and what I'm going to do when I'm underwriting it to try to see if this is something that I can wrap my arms around, I'm going to break it down and I'm going to say, okay, so how many days a week are you open? And then how many hours a day are you open? And I'm going to take those numbers and I'm going to drill it down to the smallest common denominator. And if you tell me that you're going to do $10,000 a month and you're going to do, well, let me make it easy, $4,000 a month, $1,000 a week, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to say how much a day, how many customers is that? How many customers, what's the average ticket price? So what are some of the businesses, as far as an industry, that y'all are looking at? Y'all mind saying? Like restaurant, retail, service? Anybody comfortable to share? No? All right. So let's say it's a restaurant. So how many people are you going to serve a day? And what's the average person, how much are they going to spend? So if I'm a lunch and breakfast restaurant, my average ticket might be $10 or $12, right? So you need to know that. And so then how many people at that $10 or $12? You kind of get where I'm coming from? We get down into it to say, okay, so that means you're going to serve 40 people a day. How many seats does your restaurant have? What hours are you going to be open? That's how you need to think. That's how you need to be prepared to present it to your lender. Know what your break-even numbers are. Do y'all know what I mean by break-even? That means you're covering just your expenses. You're paying your employees, you're paying for your materials, you're paying for your electricity, you're paying your rent, but you are not making one dime. You're just making enough to keep the doors open. If you're not making enough to keep the doors open, what's going to happen? You're going to either close or you're going to have to go find another source of money, either your own personal reserves or family or predatory lenders or whatever. If you're not breaking even, the last thing you want to do, guys, is go borrow more money. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to start getting some advice and some help. You need to plan for, what I generally see is, folks don't make as much money as soon as they thought they would. Okay? And I like to say that you guys as entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs for a reason. Your outlook in life, that's why I like dealing with you so much, because y'all give me hope. Okay? Y'all are enthusiastic, you're optimistic. You see the glass generally as half full. Lenders, unfortunately, have been trained to not always think that way. Lenders have been trained to kind of look at it, okay, what's worst case scenario? Let me prepare for worst case scenario, okay? And that's why the two of us together make a great team. So what I find usually is entrepreneurs overestimate a little bit on what they're going to do. It takes them a little longer to get to where they thought they were going to. So somewhere in the middle maybe is where it meets, okay? But you need to know, you need to have enough cash flow built into there to weather you through until the point where you can become profitable, okay? Fully research, this is back on your business plan, fully research your expense numbers. So what do I mean by that? Insurance cost. You can get a quote before you ever open the doors. You can find out what all insurances you're gonna need, because what I find is generally, after borrowers meet with us, they find out there's some insurances that they didn't even know that they needed. Liability insurance is always required. Of course, the physical property insurance is always required. Sometimes, depending on how many employees, workers' comp insurance might be required. Business interruption insurance is something that you certainly should consider. So you can get quotes for all that. Rents, what is a reasonable rent? If you're gonna be renting a space, start checking into some buildings and find out what it is they're gonna cost. If you already have your location, you know this is the location that I want, and this is what the general rents are, how much money is it gonna cost you to do the renovations in the building? Because rarely do we find a space that we're gonna lease where there is not something that needs to be done to modify that building or improve the space. And so that costs money. You can get contractors into that space. You can get actual bids so that you know how much money you're going to need. What you don't want to do is come in half-armed, get us or anyone to approve the loan based on your numbers, and then find out, uh-oh, I underestimated. Uh-oh, I didn't think about that. Restaurants, number one thing is grease trap. Find out about your grease trap. I mean, anybody got a restaurant or going to open a restaurant? Okay. So there's certain industries where we know what some of the hiccups have been, so hopefully we can help you with some advice on that. And then, as I said, when possible, prepare for the worst case scenario. I do not want you to live on worst case scenario street, but I want you to visit there so that you're familiar if you get there and you have a plan for what to do to get off, okay? So some common pitfalls that small business owners frequently fall into. Inadequate research. Inadequate research as to the size of their market. Who is their market? Who is that target market? That entrepreneur that I told you about that, oh, anybody and everybody can use our product. Well, you got to target somebody. You got to advertise. You got to try to draw certain people in. It's not going to be like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. Unfortunately, it just doesn't usually happen that way, okay? Inadequate research as far as the cost and the expenses. We talked about that. Inadequate research and understanding of the profit margins. There's a big difference between gross profit margin and net profit margin. Net profit is what you get to take home at the end of the day. Net profit is what you get to use to pay your bills for most small businesses. Now, if you're an S Corp or C Corp or whatever, you pay yourself a salary, it's a little bit different. But for most small businesses, the net profit is what they're able to take home and pay their bills. So what do I mean by gross profit? All right, so I buy a widget for for $1, and I sell it for $2. So I've got a 100% markup. I'm buying it for $1, I'm selling it for $2. My gross profit is $1. Now, how do I know what my net profit is? Then I got to take out all my expenses. I got to take out my insurance, my utilities, my rent, the cost of my labor, all of those things, and I might find out that, guess what? I'm losing 25 cents every time I sell one. Most small business owners think, oh, to make more money, I got to sell more, I got to sell more, I got to sell more. Well, if you're not selling it at the right price, selling more just puts you farther in the hole, okay? So you've got to know these numbers. You've got to know them. Lack of timely compilation and review of their income and expenses. That's what I'm leading up to. So if we've dealt with business owners before, again, small business, first time business owners, and so they do a great job of keeping all the receipts. They keep them in a box. At the end of the year, when it's time to do the taxes, they take that box of receipts to their accountant and they say, okay, here it is. So between the time they open their doors and the end of the year, they really don't have any clue other than what their bank balances are, right? So you can't wait until the end of the year. Because what if you've been selling that for $2 and losing a quarter every time? You got to keep up with it on a weekly, monthly, daily basis, okay? If you don't, what I say is, it's like closing the barn door after all the cow's already out. You can't correct what you don't know is a problem. So the way that you know that is by keeping accurate records and having proper accounting systems in place. Failure to consult with subject area experts, like an accountant, like an attorney. Many small business owners that are just getting started, very small, say, I can't afford an accountant. I can't afford a bookkeeper. And my response is, you can't afford not to have one. If you don't have the system yourself and know how to do it and stay on top of it, you can't afford not to. It's just something, it's a cost of doing business that you need to build into that from the beginning. Failure to invest in necessary technology being your point of sale system, your inventory control system, your accounting system, all of those things. You need to research that and make sure that you're investing in it. And then this is the biggie, failure to report all of your income. So most businesses, and some businesses are very much largely cash. Most businesses have a certain percentage that's cash. And most small business owners think, well, I don't really need to run that through the business because then I won't have to pay taxes on it, right? I mean, it's almost universal. All of us, we don't want to pay Uncle Sam any more than we have to pay Uncle Sam. So if there's a way that we can, kind of hide some, then most small business owners try to do that. Well, I'm just here to tell you that you're probably shortchanging yourself if you do that. You need to report all of your income and all of your expenses. If you're having to pay taxes, that is a very good thing. That means that you're making money, okay? Here's how you're shortchanging yourself. As your business, you may say to me, Vicki, I don't need to borrow any money. I've got everything I need. I don't need to borrow any money. So I'm not going to worry about that. I can say to you that eventually, at some point, if you're successful in your business and you successfully grow it, at some point you're going to need to borrow money. At some point you should borrow money, even if you probably could fund it yourself, because you're going to have ebbs and flows in your cash. And so if you've used all your cash to fund something, then you're scrimping and trying to cut corners to get it. But the point being then, any lender, whether it's a nonprofit lender like us, whether it's a planning development district, whether it's one of the banks, whether it's a credit union, it does not matter. We can only count the revenue that you report. You can't say, oh, well, that's not all of it, though. I've got another set of books. We can't use that, okay? That's one thing. The other thing is, hopefully, most small business owners, their ultimate goal is to one day grow that business, let it be successful and profitable, and be able to sell that business for a huge profit and sit back and relax and enjoy the fruits of your labors, and in my case, grandchildren. If you go to sell your business, when you go to sell your business, what you're able to sell your business for is a multiple of what your revenues are. So if you're not reporting all your revenues, you are limiting how much you're going to be able to sell your business for. Okay? So you're hurting yourself. Here's the other nightmare. The other nightmare is you've got a business, and I've seen this. I've had customers that have lived through this. The business is doing very well. The proprietor is prospering greatly. But the money that they're reporting does not support the lifestyle that they're living. Okay? They got a big, huge house, on the water, a boat, they got all this stuff. But yet the business is showing barely breaking even year after year after year. The IRS comes in to audit them. Eventually, we're all going to get audited at some point, especially if we're a small business owner. We're going to get audited. So the IRS comes in there. They want to get copies of bank statements. They know what you have. And when they can't make it make sense, then they really start digging. And then you do not want Uncle Sam breathing down your neck. They can put a lien on everything you got. They can seize your business and shut the doors. I've seen it happen. So just get professional accounting advice that can help you find legitimate ways to minimize your tax liability, okay? But don't do it by not reporting income. You're hurting yourself if you're not reporting all of your income. Plus taking just an inordinate risk that you shouldn't take. Okay, some common pitfalls. Unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations in regard to the amount of time that you're going to have to invest in the business. And in this, I mean, it starts the amount of time that you have to invest before you can get funding, the amount of time that it takes to get approved and to get funded, the amount of work that you're going to have to put into it, the amount of time that you're going to have to invest in the business once you get it open. Okay? I tell the story about my son. I've got 2 boys. And I used to tell him, look, chase your passion. If you chase your passion, the money will come. One chose to chase his passion, which is coaching and teaching. One chose to make his passion be a good money road, right? And he has always said, I'm going to own my own business. I'm not going to work for somebody else. I'm going to work for myself. He saw me and how I sold my soul at the company store and didn't get compensated anymore for all the additional hours that I put in. And he said, I'm not doing that, Mom. I'm not going to do it. If I'm putting in all those hours and all that, I'm going to be the one to reap the reward. So he owns his own business and he's quite successful. I used to tell him, that's fine, son, but if you do that, you need to understand you're going to put way harder for yourself than you will for anybody else. And that is absolutely proven true. Now, he's very successful, but he does not, he can't leave the job at the job. As a business owner, you bring that home with you. You eat it, you sleep it, everything. You can't just leave it at home. Everything counts on it. So unrealistic investment, how long it's going to take of you before and after the business opens. The financial investment that it's going to take for you to get approval. The continuing financial investment that you're going to have to make, because there are going to be ebbs and flows in the business. And then the rewards versus the cost. And I'm just going to tell a quick story here about an actual client that we had on the coast. They opened a restaurant. They went in business with their son. Their son always was a chef, and he had a passion. He wanted to own his own restaurant. And I'll tell you that if you're a chef and cooking is your passion, owning a restaurant is probably not going to help you live out that passion, because as a restaurant owner, usually you're not the one doing the cooking. You're doing the one running the business, right? But anyway, Mom and Dad thankfully had some resources. We lent them some money. They invested some money, and they opened. They had a long delay in getting opened because of health department and other uncontrollable issues. So all of that time that they weren't open, all of their expenses were still clicking along. Okay, they were still having to pay rent. They were still having interest accrue on the loan. They were still having to pay utilities. All of those things, that clock was still ticking, but yet they weren't open yet, so they didn't have any revenue coming in. So they didn't expect to have to keep investing more money into the business before they ever opened, okay? If they get opened, they really and truly, in hindsight looking at it, they did not have a good location. And in business, oftentimes, if there's a storefront involved, it's much like real estate purchase. Location, location, location. You can have the best product, the best service, bar none, but if you don't have a good location, that is a huge hurdle to overcome. So please consider location, location, location if it's a storefront type thing. So they had a bad location. We finally got them to where this business was bleeding cash. They kept having to go into their personal reserves. We finally got them to the point where they were breaking even. They were covering expenses. They had stopped the bleed. Yay! Celebration. You know what they did? They came in and said, we're going to close it. We're going to close it because the cost does not equal the reward. It's too much effort for no more reward. Even if we get this thing to where it's profitable, it's just not what we thought it was going to be. Too much cost, too much effort. So do all that homework on the front end, live in that worst case scenario, understand what's really going to be involved. Commingling business and personal money, what do I mean by that? Not having a separate bank account, not running all of your business revenue through the business account. All of the business income needs to go into the business account. How do you pay your personal expenses? You pay yourself, or you pay a draw from the business account to your personal. You deposit that into your personal account. You pay your personal bills out of your personal account. Again, much of this comes back to when you get audited by the IRS, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at those deposits in that business account, in that business personal account. And if they're seeing these cash deposits all the time, they're going to question that, and you're going to have to defend that. So business receipts and expenses out of the business account, personal in the personal. Don't commingle those. Another pitfall, some business borrowers, especially startups, tend to take the path of least resistance. So back to this unrealistic expectations. You know that you can buy a car in a day, right? I can leave here today and go to one of the car dealerships and leave in a new car and finance it right there on the spot. I can buy a house in 30 days. I can't usually finance a business in 30 days. It usually takes longer than that, okay? So expect that. But some of our business owners kind of get the cart before the horse, and they've signed a lease, or they've stepped out and they've done some things before they have their financing arranged. And then they come to us and they find out, oh, well, you know, it's not going to move that fast. I mean, it's a slower process than that. So then they just abandon it and they say, okay, then I'm going to go somewhere else. They might go get a personal loan. They might put it on their credit card. They might go to their friends or family and borrow money. Or they might go to one of those predatory payday type business lenders that are out there. They're there. There is easy money that can be found. But generally, easy money is not good money. And we see a lot of those clients who didn't invest the time up front and they went to one of these borrowers, and then they come to us for us to save them and get them out of it, because it can really, really deplete their cash. You go to friends or family, certainly you can do that. I'm not saying that it's not advised, just understand what you're doing, because it might be fairly easy, but that family member has an investment in your business. So what does that mean? They're going to have their nose in your business, right? Because they know their money's at risk. They want to know what's going on. And you might not want that. That might not be something that you welcome or that you want. So just be mindful of that. The other thing is, if you can, don't ever borrow business funds personally. Yes, sometimes it can be easier. And some of us bankers, you know, if you're needing $25,000 for your business, we can just real quickly get it done through a personal loan, and you're out the door. And you know, we say, well, we've done them a favor, but really we've not, because that can never be converted now to business debt. It was a debt that you took out in your personal name. Okay? So just be mindful of that. You need to establish a business credit profile and a business credit history. One of the others is just not understanding the importance of good personal credit. And as I said, your personal credit is always going to follow you. You're always, unless you get to be the level of like a Mississippi Power, you're going to be required to personally guarantee the loan. It'll be in the business name, but you'll also personally guarantee it. Okay, now I'm going to spend just a few minutes on success stories. These are some of the clients. This is the reward of what I do. This is a little restaurant. Tony Nelson's one of our first commercial lenders. He has a Philly cheesesteak business. He's from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and he wanted to bring his native Philly cheesesteaks to the coast, and we were able to assist him with that. A rural daycare center. This one right here, the guy on the stand-up paddleboard, is actually a VBOC, a Veterans Business Outreach Counselor. He was a displaced CB, and he wanted to go into the kayak business. He started out in our innovation center in a little warehouse space, and every morning he'd roll out his rack of kayaks out to the edge of the street, and that's how he sold his kayaks, and that's how he got started. He had an opportunity then to locate to a larger facility. We assisted him with that. I think when he was in the Innovation Center, he started that with an SBA express loan. That's how he started that business. When we moved to a larger location, he needed some more money for inventory. We were able to assist him in that. He quickly outgrew that space, took in the other half of the space, quickly outgrew that, had an opportunity to lease a 10,000 square foot space. We assisted him with that. The creativity and ingenuity of entrepreneurs, he always wanted to be on a body of water. He thought with a kayak shop, he needed to be on a body of water where he could demo his boats. And the cost of real estate to lease or to buy on water is exorbitant. So he modified. He got a indoor, actually it's a, above ground pool, and put it in his shop. At 10,000 square feet, he had room to do that. And so now right there in his shop, you can test out the different kayaks and paddleboards. After he was in this space for about a year, he had an opportunity to purchase it because his property owner got into some tax situations and needed some quick cash. And so we were able to assist him there. So we've been with him through the progression of his business. This next one here is a Little Caesars franchise right there. That's in Hurley, a rural area. Murky Waters Blues and Barbecue. This is 3 local guys that went to school at Ole Miss and wanted to open a restaurant. Restaurants are very, very difficult to get financed at traditional banks. For 3 young guys right out of college, it just was impossible. Nobody would have entertained it. They all came up in the restaurant business. One of them's dad actually owns a restaurant, very successful restaurant. We were able to assist them with a small loan. They operated on a shoestring, but they got it done. And they've since expanded to 3 locations, and we've assisted them with each one of those. And they actually bought the facility. This is at their Ocean Springs location, but they also expanded to Hattiesburg, and they were able to purchase that building. So, very successful business. The next one, Algernon Shaw, he was a graphic designer working in the denture business and had a sign business on the side. And through us and our local planning and development district, he was able to build a shop and buy the equipment to be able to do his sign business full time. Porterhouse Pub is a new restaurant in downtown Hattiesburg. They were actually voted the new small business of the year in Pine Belt. Very proud of them. That was through an SBA Community Advantage loan. This is a phone repair store in Hattiesburg, another example of entrepreneur's creativity and ingenuity. He purchased an ambulance and outfitted it to be a cellular mobile repair to where he could take it to facilities and stuff like that. And then this is a nurse practitioner she had a lot of experience, had worked for the hospitals, and then had her own clinic inside a pharmacy. I know you've seen some of these little small walk-in nurse practitioner clinics, but there wasn't a lot of privacy, there wasn't a lot of room. She didn't feel like that she was able to provide the quality and quantity of care that she wanted to, and so she wanted to expand and open her own clinic. We were able to assist her with that. And we're proud to say she's one of on the coast at least, folks have a difficult time finding someone who will accept the Affordable Care Act insurance. It's a real challenge for them. And Karika accepts that and has really grown her business and really providing a great service to our community. This is I like to tell this story. I like to end with this one because this is an example of perseverance. When I told you the unrealistic expectation of the time that's going to be involved, Joy is a perfect example of that. I first met Joy it was over 4 years ago. She came in with her business plan, met with me. She was, at that time, she had experience in the funeral care industry. She was a licensed mortician in both Mississippi and Alabama, and a licensed funeral director in both Mississippi and Alabama. At the time, she was the only female dual licensed person. And she wanted to build a new funeral home in her rural community of Lucedale. She had her business plan, she had her projections. I studied over those. I fully believed in her. I challenged her on her numbers, fully bought into it, wanted to approve her loan. The amount that she needed was more than what we could fund, because our funding can vary from time to time as far as what our max loan is. She needed more than what we could fund. So I started reaching out to some of our partner banks, thinking I'll find one of them that can do the first mortgage on the property. We'll be the gap lender. She kept getting told no. She kept getting told no. I was just shocked. I couldn't believe it because I was all in with it. Took her 4 years, but we finally got a bank to agree to tell her how they would do it. And that's what we've been asking our banker partners to do. Look, if you don't like it this way, tell us how you will do it. Tell us what would make you comfortable. How will you do it? Well, we finally got one that told her what it would take. She made it happen. They did the first mortgage loan. We did a second mortgage loan. I think the bank did like 60% of the amount she needed. We did 40%. And then she had her own cash investment and was able to finally realize her dream of bringing a brand new state-of-the-art funeral home to her very rural community. 4 years, but she never gave up on the dream, and she kept working it until we finally were able to make it happen. So persevere. Don't let anyone crush your dreams. Don't let anyone, if they take a no as a not yet. That's what we like to say. For those that we aren't able to fund currently, we like to say not yet. But hopefully we can help you get there and help you get the resources to do it. Here's one more in this area. Marcus Bell had been a truck driver for years. I think his dad even, John Michael, was a truck driver. The truck that he had was getting aged, and he needed to replace it with a new unit, and we were able to get him on the road with this brand new truck. This is your business lending team. It's myself, Janice Marsh, and Ronnie E. Mill. And of course, John Michael is up here now. But we hope that at some point in the future, we can maybe be highlighting your business as one of our success stories. We wish you all the very best of luck. Again, don't let anyone steal your dream. Just keep working it. Look at the questions and the challenges that you get from us or your other lender as just an opportunity to improve and maybe think about things in a little different way. Have any questions? Okay. Thank you so much for y'all's time. We'll be around and hope to meet with each of you individually. Rhonda and Janita, thank you so much.